What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Tui, creator of the SAT Crash Course series available on YouTube. And in this video, I'm going to teach you my exclusive SAT writing grammar rules. This video covers every grammar rule you need to know for the SAT, all explained in simple terms anyone can understand. So without further ado, here are my SAT writing grammar rules. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody. This is SAT Writing and Language Crash Course, Day 1, Part 1. So we're going to start off with the rules for writing. I think you all have access to those either on your end in a browser window, or if you've printed those off, that's great too. I'm going to be referencing them, and I'll bring them up on my screen as well. So if you don't have those, it's not a problem. You'll need them for the homework. But I want to start by saying that I love teaching the writing and language section. This is the easiest section on the SAT to get a big boost on. It teaches the most limited amount of content by far of any section on the SAT. I've basically condensed all of the grammar rules that you need to know into 10 rules on these 2 pages of my rules for writing. And if you know these rules, you are going to get a solid score increase on your SAT writing and language section. If you actually follow them all, there's a good chance you're going to get close to a perfect score if you're able to follow them. That takes a little practice, but it's such a limited skill set. With just a little bit of practice, you're going to see a big boost. Okay. All right. So let's go down the line on the rules for writing. I'm going to ask you guys to read these out loud for me, and really for the first part of the session, I just want to discuss the rules and make sure that we're all on the same page and make sure that you understand them all. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So, Nicole, let's start off with rule number 1, punctuation. Read that first bullet point on periods for me, please.
Periods break up 2 separate standalone statements.
Okay, great. Do you guys know what we mean by separate standalone statements? Do you guys know what that means?
Complete sentences.
Yeah, like complete sentences. Exact same idea, right? If it stands alone on its own, we've got a standalone thought, we've got a complete sentence, okay? Now, periods aren't the only way to break up standalone thoughts. You can also use a semicolon to break up 2 standalone thoughts, but periods are by far the most common way to do it. Okay, that's pretty straightforward, elementary sort of grades grammar. Okay, great. Ava, go ahead and read the second bullet point for me, please. Commas.
Use commas whenever you need a brief pause. If you don't need a brief pause, leave it out. Should not be used to connect 2 standalone thoughts. There, a period or semicolon must be used.
Okay, great. So commas, we can get like really, really complicated commas. I don't like to, because I found that just following this one basic rule of using commas when you need a brief pause, if you focus on that, then that's pretty much all you need to know. It'll work 99.5% of the time. Now notice it doesn't say wherever you can take a brief pause, right? It says whenever you need a brief pause. So if you don't need a brief pause, you don't need a comma. But if you need a brief pause, you need a comma, and that's it. So just ask yourself that question, and you'll be fine. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, good. Let me give you an example. Like that second sentence, right? If you don't need a brief pause, right, we see comma there, leave it out, right? There's got to be a pause there. You can't say, if you don't need a brief pause, leave it out. There's got to be a little bit of a break there. If you don't need a brief pause, leave it out. Good. Okay. And then there's a second part to the comma rule that you read for us, Ava, right? Which is it shouldn't be used to connect 2 standalone thoughts. You need to have a period or semicolon there separating 2 standalone thoughts. So let's take this period right here after the word thoughts. We couldn't put a comma there. It wouldn't work. Right? We couldn't read it as should not be used to connect 2 standalone thoughts, comma, there a period or semicolon must be used. We got 2 standalone thoughts. We need a period. We need a semicolon. Comma is not enough of a break there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Be on the lookout for that even when there's not like a comma in the underlined portion in the question. Sometimes if you change a part of the sentence, it goes from being not a standalone thought to a standalone thought. And if suddenly you've got 2 standalone thoughts being connected by a comma, you can't go with that answer choice. Be on the lookout for that. We'll see that a couple times here in some of the questions we'll get through here in the course. Okay, semicolons. Let's move on to semicolons. Caroline, go ahead and read the rule for semicolons, please.
Okay. Semicolons
connect two related statements that could still stand on their own as complete sentences.
Okay, great. So, like a period, right? So this is for standalone thoughts. So basically, the easiest way to test them is to make sure that you've got two standalone thoughts being connected by the semicolon or being separated by the semicolon. And if they're not standalone thoughts, you can't use a semicolon there. Now, why would you use a semicolon instead of a period? Sometimes an author wants to highlight the relationship between two standalone thoughts, and then so you separate them only with a semicolon, not with a period, but it still has to be standalone thoughts. Okay? Any questions about that?
Nope.
No? We're good?
Nope.
Okay. I mean, it's real straightforward. It doesn't get complicated in the punctuation. As long as you know the rules, it's really not complicated at all. The trickiest ones are coming up, the colon and the em dash. Go ahead and read the rule on colons for me. Blaze, go ahead and read the rule for colons.
All right. Alrighty. Colons introduce a list, even a list of one item. Just don't use after the description.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you real quick. Okay, so
Okay.
so let's talk about this. So a list, even a list of one item. Okay, so let me give you an example, just of a list in general. Okay, I like food, so we're gonna use some food examples. I went to the grocery store to pick up all of the items I needed to bake chocolate chip cookies. Colon, butter, flour, sugar, salt, and chocolate chips. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just a list. Okay. It can also be a list of one item, just like you can have a grocery list of one item, right? So it could be like, I went to the grocery store to pick up the only thing I was missing to make chocolate chip cookies, colon, chocolate chips. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
Yep.
now, don't use after the phrase such as or like for example, because kind of that's what the semicolon or what the colon means in that sentence, right? I wouldn't say I went to the grocery store to pick up all of the items I needed to bake chocolate chip cookies, comma, such as colon, right? Because the colon is kind of, it means the following, such as. So it would be redundant to have it after such as. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So now, so that's for a list. It can also be for an explanation or description. So let me give you an example. I'll use the cookie example again of the colon in a description. I was looking forward to baking chocolate chip cookies, colon, the most delicious cookie in the world. Okay. Whether you think that's true or not. Immaterial right now. That is a description of chocolate chip cookies. So, so that works there for the colon. It is true, by the way. It is the most delicious cookie in the world. But all right. So read the second part of that colon rule, please, Blaze. Starting with, it will appear in this order.
Alrighty. It will appear in this order. 1. Thing to be listed, explained, described.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you real quick. Let me give you the example.
Alrighty.
So in the previous examples, I was saying I went to the grocery store to pick up all the things I needed to bake chocolate chip cookies, right? So that's the thing that's going to be listed. All the things I needed to bake chocolate chip cookies, okay? Then the second part. Go ahead and read that.
Okay, the second part. 2. The colon.
Okay. All right, which will follow the thing to be listed, explained, or described, and then the last part.
And then 3. List, explanation, description.
Okay? And so that's sort of the formula for use of the colon. You'll always see it in that order. Okay, there's the thing to be listed, explained, or described, then the colon, then the list, explanation, or description. And all the examples I gave about the cookies kind of followed that formula, right? I was looking forward to baking chocolate chip cookies, right? So there's chocolate chip cookies about to be described, colon, the most delicious cookie in the world, okay, the description. It's always going to appear in that order. And if something's out of order, then it's not proper use of the colon, okay? We're going to see lots of examples of those. They love the colon on the SAT. It's funny because most students don't write with it. I didn't write with it a whole. I use it all the time now since I've been tutoring the SAT. I've learned to love it. But most students don't have a whole lot of experience using it. With a little bit of SAT prep, you're going to have lots of experience with the colon. Okay? Any questions about the colon?
Nope.
We're good? Okay. All right. Irene, go ahead and read the rule for the em dash. A lot of similarities between the em dash and the colon. But one big difference. Go ahead and read that rule, please. Can you hear me, Irene? Maybe Irene's not with us. Oh, looks like she left, actually. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Go ahead and read the rule for the em dash, please. Can you hear me, Elizabeth?
The em dash, a single em dash. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Single em dash anywhere used of.
Okay.
However, for a list...
I'm going to stop you real quick, Elizabeth, and you're cutting out a little bit again. That is okay. So single M dash can be used anywhere. A colon can be used following the rule above. Okay, so all the examples I gave you with the cookies and the use of the colon there, we can have an M dash in place of the colon. It works just great there. They're essentially interchangeable. All right? So an M dash can do anything a colon can do, but there's one thing an M dash can do that a colon can't do, and that's the next part here. I'm going to actually have Nicole, will you read that second part of the M dash rule begin with however?
However, for a list, description, or explanation in the middle of a sentence, use the double M dash.
And then go ahead and read that example.
All of the creative elements of a film, casting, acting, cinematography, effects, and editing, are the responsibility of the director.
Okay, good. So there's a double M dash, and there's no such thing as a double colon. That thing just doesn't exist. Okay? So for list, explanation, or description in the middle of a sentence, it's got to be the M dash, specifically the double M dash. Okay? But notice it still follows the same formula for the colon, right? It's going to be the thing to be listed, explained, or described. And in the example here, we've got the creative elements of a film, right? That's the thing to be listed. Then we see the M dash, and then there's the list. Does that make sense, how it still follows the same colon formula?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. And that's true even for the double M dash. Okay. Okay. Good. Questions?
Nope.
Relatively straightforward. That's it for punctuation. That's it. That's all you need to know. All right. I love punctuation questions. They're gimmies if you just follow the rules and apply the rules. All right. Ava, go ahead and read. We're going to talk about possessives here. Read the first example of a singular possessive.
That is the girl's sweater.
Okay, so we're talking about possession here, and we've got an apostrophe going on. We know we're talking about one single girl's sweater. Okay? And the reason for that is, I said earlier, the apostrophe denotes possession. So what becomes before the apostrophe is in possession, and here that is the girl. Okay? Hey, Elizabeth, welcome back. I'm guessing you're trying to get your audio straightened out. Okay. Now, if the apostrophe were after the S in girls, then we know we'd be talking about multiple girls' sweaters, or a sweater belonging to multiple girls, I should say. Okay? So pay close attention to the placement of the apostrophe if it's before the S, singular, if it's after the S, plural. As in the plural example of possessives, that's the next bullet point. Ava, go ahead and read the second bullet point for possessives.
The boys' favorite game is football.
Yeah, and that actually be read just the boys' favorite game is football, which is kind of tricky because it sounds the exact same. If the apostrophe were after the Y, it would sound the exact same. The boys' favorite game is football. If it was singular, it sound the same if it's plural. The boys' favorite game is football. Plural sounds the exact same. The only way to tell is really by looking at the word and looking at the placement of the apostrophe. Does that make sense, Ava?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but here we know we're talking about multiple boys because the apostrophe comes after the S. If it came after the Y, we'd be talking about one boy. Any questions?
No.
Nope. We're good? Okay, great. Caroline, go and read the third bullet point on possessives.
Okay. Pay attention to commonly confused possessives with no apostrophe.
Ooh, I see this all the time, and I've been guilty from time to time. Go ahead and read them.
It's versus its.
Okay, I'm going to stop you real quick. Which one is possessive?
The second one?
Nope. Nope. It's the first one, right? This is commonly confused possessives with no apostrophes, right? And it's really tricky because it's with an apostrophe is a contraction. You guys know what a contraction is? You guys know what a contraction is? You've heard of them, right?
Yeah.
So you take two words, basically, like in this case, it's it is. You take two words and you smush them together, right? And then you take out one of the letters from those smushed words and you put an apostrophe in place of the letter taken out. So for it, with the apostrophe, we've taken it is, smushed it together, taken out the I, and placed an apostrophe in place of the I, right? So, and that's the same for it's, there, and your with an apostrophe. Those are all contractions. It's with an apostrophe is a contraction for it is. There with an apostrophe is a contraction for they are. And your with an apostrophe is a contraction for you are. Okay? So the possessive forms actually don't have an apostrophe, like it's is possessive, no apostrophe there. Go ahead and read the two examples, Caroline, please.
Okay. The dog eats its food versus it's going to rain.
Yeah. So here's when you see you've got a question about whether or not using the right form of a commonly confused possessive with no apostrophe. I recommend always breaking it up into the two words, right? So, for example, when you see it's with an apostrophe, read it as it is going to rain, right? And then you're like, does that work? It is going to rain. Okay, that works. So that's the right form. But if we had an apostrophe right here for the dog ate its food, and you broke it up, it would say the dog ate it is food. Well, that wouldn't make any sense, right? So that doesn't work. So always break it up into the two separate words, and you know if you're using the right form or not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then also there and there. Which one is the possessive, Caroline?
The first one.
The first one, yeah, no apostrophe. And your versus your. Which one is possessive?
The first.
The first one again, no apostrophe. Okay. We've all been guilty. We've all done it in a text probably. But now you know the rule and you can reference this. Any questions before we move on?
No.
Okay. Is this anything new, or is this a lot of sort of just review for the most part?
New.
Mostly review for me.
Mostly review? Okay. Good. All right. Okay, some of this is going to start getting some new stuff here. And let's, I think that was Caroline that's read. So Blaze, go ahead and we're going to read rule number 3, choosing the right word in context. We're going to skip the first bullet point, actually first and second one. This is on transition words. And I'm going to show you how to use this rule in an actual question. Without the questions, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go over the rule. But basically the idea is that we're connecting two different ideas in a paragraph. And you'll read the two ideas, identify the two ideas being connected, identify the relationship between the two ideas. It'll be a relationship of contrast, a relationship of similarity, cause and effect, or providing examples. Those are the big 4 relationships. There's a couple others we'll see. I'll explain those. But by and large, those are the big 4. Once you know the relationship, you know which type of matching transition word to use. We'll go over it on an actual test. Don't worry about that. Let's look at commonly confused words for right now. So Blaze, go ahead and read the first pair of commonly confused words.
Alrighty, so commonly confused words, accept versus accept.
Yeah, can you use accept with an A in a sentence?
Wait, can you repeat that again? Sorry.
Yeah, can you use accept with an A in a sentence?
Yes.
Try. If you can't, it's not a big deal. This is tricky. This is super tricky. I just want to see if you can try.
Okay. Oh, I see now.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't know.
Yeah, no problem. Can anybody use that in a sentence? I'll take anybody that knows how to use that.
I accept your invitation.
Yes, I accept your invitation to the party. Great. I accept. So, and here's the rule for almost all these. A for action. Okay, if it's a verb, right, then you need the A form for sure. Okay, I accept your invitation, right? Can you use accept, somebody use accept with an E in a sentence?
I love all candy except jelly beans.
Yes, good, excellent, right? So we're talking about an exception to something, right? It's not a verb there, it's not an action. Then that's the E form, as in an exception to something, right? So if it's a verb, A for action, so the A form of accept is the verb. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. And is that true about the jelly beans?
No.
No, okay. You like all candy.
Most of it.
Most of it. The black jelly beans are, I'll pass on. But, have you guys had the Starburst jelly beans? Easter's coming up. Have you had the Starburst jelly beans?
Those are good.
Oh my god.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Those are good. All right. Got me thinking about candy now. All right. Lots of food examples to be had. Yeah, anyway. Let's go to, actually, who is Blaze, you're reading, right? What about effects and effect? Can you come up with an example of effect? I'll take anybody. Effect with an A. Can you use that in a sentence?
The only thing I can really think, let me see. The poison affected his immune system?
Yeah, perfect, right? That's great, right? So we got a verb here, right? An action. The poison is doing something. It is affecting, right? It affected this guy's immune system. So it's definitely an action, A for action. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The student taught me this, actually. Like, I've gone over these with her before. She's like, oh, I learned in school. It was A for action. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. So I've learned a lot from my students, and it just works beautifully here. What about effects with an E? I'll take anybody who can do effect with an E in a sentence. How about what were the major effects of the American Civil War? Right? We're talking about a noun, something, right? The effects of the Civil War. It's not an action there, right? Now you could say the Civil War affected voting rights or ideas about citizenship in America, right? Or affected the legal status of slavery in America, right? Then definitely A for action. But if we're talking about the effects of the Civil War, there were a number of important effects. Then that's effects with an E, because it's not a verb in that context. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Are we good? Yeah?
Okay. Yes.
So just look out for if it's an action. If it's an action, you need the A form. I see those two pop up quite a bit, or I've seen them pop up on practice tests. And then access. Can anybody use access with an A in a sentence? I'll take anybody.
The key grants access to the house.
Yes, and now this is funky because access with an A can be a verb or a noun. And so the key granted access with an A, that's totally acceptable. But if you're using the verb form of access, right, I accessed the hidden room by using the secret key or something like that, where you accessed something, that's a verb there. And so it's the A form of access. As opposed to an excess of something. Can someone use excess with an E in a sentence?
There is excess junk in the car.
Okay, good. Absolutely. That is definitely true of my car. Good, right? We're talking about extra of something with that one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there is an A form of access that's not a verb, but if it's a verb, it's still A for action. And that's a nice rule for all those commonly confused words. What about precede versus proceed? Can anybody use precede with P-R-E-C-E-D? Can anybody use that in a sentence?
The letter A precedes the letter B.
Beautiful, right? To precede means to come before. But we see that P-R-E prefix, right? We know what a prefix means, right, guys? What's a prefix? What's the prefix?
Something that comes before.
Yeah, something that comes before the word, right? Part of the word that comes before the main body of the word. So that's easy to remember, right? Pre means before, like a pre-game warm-up, right? So to precede means to come before. What does to proceed mean? What does that mean? To proceed.
Like go forward with something.
Absolutely, to move forward, to continue. You may proceed, right? What about then and than? Then with an E. Can somebody use that in a sentence?
Then he went to the store.
Yes, right. And this is what we're talking about sequence. And I actually use that sequence has the first vowel is an E. So we're talking about sequence, the order things happen in. Then we need then with an E. And if then with an A, that's for comparison. Comparison, right? The word comparison has that A in comparison, the word comparison. So that's than with an A is comparison. Then with an E is sequence. Any questions about those two?
Nope.
And that's about it. Those are the main ones I've seen on the SAT. All right. Who, whom, and whose. Let's talk about this real quick. You don't have to worry too much about whose. That's obviously possessive. What I see most commonly tested is when to use whom. Who is generally going to be something like a subject or an object. But for whom, that is always going to be preceded, right? Preceded by a preposition. So examples of prepositions: to, for, by, near, of, in. I've got a list of prepositions actually on the rules for writing at the end, 25 most common prepositions. I do recommend you study this, especially the first 10 of the most common prepositions. Prepositions describe the relationship between two things, right? You could say like you are walking to your house, or you are in your house, or you are on top of your house. Right, or you're at your house, right, or you're coming from your house. Two things have a relationship. Prepositions describe the relationship between those two things. So if it's preceded by a preposition, you need whom. And so here's all the examples of like to whom, for whom, of whom, by whom. Okay, to whom was this gift intended? Right, for whom was this written? By whom was this done, right? As opposed to who did this, right? Which would probably be the more common way to say that. Who did this? Right? Your mom or dad might yell, right? A British aristocrat yelling at their children might say, "By whom was this done?" Right? Just as long as it's preceded by a preposition, you got to use whom. Okay? Any questions about that?
Okay. Yep.
Nope.
No? Okay. Who are you going to prom with? Right? Who? That's the subject. Who are you going to prom with? With whom are you going to prom? The difference there between the two. If it's got a preposition coming before it, you need whom. And that's all you got to memorize. Okay? Also, last bullet point there, general vocab. You got to know your vocab for the SAT writing and language section. It's true for the SAT reading section. Obviously, you got to know your vocab. That's the biggest part the biggest factor in your reading comprehension skills is really your level of academic vocabulary. Sometimes you just have to know what words mean on the SAT writing and language section. So here's what I tell students all the time. Please take my advice. When you are doing reading in your classes or just reading on your own, if you see a word you don't know, please look it up. Commit to yourself right now. Make it a habit. You see a word you don't know, look it up. Within a relatively short period of time, I'm talking about a couple months, 2 months, certainly 3 months or 4 months, your level of academic vocabulary is going to expand dramatically, right? And you're going to have no trouble with anything you're going to see, on the reading section of the SAT or on the writing and language section, if you commit to looking up words. Even if you think you kind of know the general meaning and you can figure it out from the context, look it up. Make a habit of it right now. It will pay dividends for really the rest of your academic career. Okay? It's that or do vocab worksheets, and nobody wants to do vocab worksheets. Right? Can we agree on that? You don't want to do vocab worksheets?
No.
I don't want you to do vocab worksheets, right? So basically, you can take all of the work you're doing for your classes and turn everything into SAT prep if you commit right now to looking up every word you don't know. Look it up. Can you guys do that?
Yes.
Yep.
It's a small habit, but it's a
Yes.
hugely important habit, especially if you plan on, going to college or taking the SAT, which I think describes all of you. Okay? So do that. You will thank me later. All right. And maybe soon. All right. Rule number 4, keep it simple. I think Blaze was reading the last one. Irene, go ahead and read rule number 4, keep it simple. This one is hugely important. They love testing on this one. I'd say it's probably the second most commonly tested rule. Go ahead and read that first bullet point, please. Irene, maybe not so much with us. That's all right.
I think she's still gone.
Yeah, I think she left. I agree. Elizabeth, can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Let's try. I want to try. Go ahead and that first bullet point. Maybe not.
The ice begins.
Yeah, you're cutting out. I'm so sorry, Elizabeth.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just cutting out. Don't worry about it. We'll go to Nicole.
Okay.
You were saying it with too few words, unfortunately. Nicole, go ahead and read that first bullet point, please.
Whenever possible, say it with fewer words. Incorrect. The ice begins thawing in late summer, and such thawing follows several weeks of higher temperatures. Correct. The ice begins thawing in late summer, following several weeks of higher temperatures.
Yeah. Do you see the difference between those two?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, with the incorrect version here, there's just that and such thawing follows. There's just nothing is added by those extra words. Nothing. Right? So just, you can say it with fewer words, always say it with fewer words. Go with the answer choice that has, fewer words. Yeah, hugely, this is a really, second most commonly tested rule probably on the SAT. Let's read that the second bullet point. Ava.
You don't have to use fancy words or complex sentence structure. Say it simply and clearly. Also avoid the passive voice when possible. Incorrect. The dogs were taken for a walk by me.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with the passive voice? Have you heard about that? Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah. It's when the subject is not actually doing an action, like something is happening to the subject, which is just kind of confusing and it's difficult to just sort of understand or visualize, right? Because the subject here in this sentence is dogs, but the dogs aren't doing anything, right? Something's happening to the dogs. They're being taken for a walk, right? So what would be a better way to phrase that sentence? Yeah, I think you nailed it, Elizabeth. Yeah, I took the dogs for a walk. I took the dogs for a walk, right? Then you are the one doing something, right? The subject is finally doing something. That's what you want in a sentence. Okay. All right. Caroline, go ahead and read that third bullet point, please. Avoid.
Okay. Avoid unnecessary repetitive statements. Incorrect. Avoid redundant statements that are unnecessarily repetitive.
Okay. Do you know what redundant means?
Yeah, like you saying it over and over.
Yeah. Redundant means unnecessarily repetitive, right? So you could say avoid redundant statements, or you could say avoid statements that are unnecessarily repetitive. Those are both great, but don't say avoid redundant statements that are unnecessarily repetitive, because by definition, redundant statements are, unnecessarily repetitive. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be on the lookout for that. Whenever you're like, didn't they already say that? Or like, oh, that sounds repetitive. They're probably testing you on keep it simple, avoid repetitive statements. Go with the one that avoids the unnecessary repetition. You'll be good. Okay. Next bullet point, please. Blaze.
Alrighty. When combining two sentences, avoid answer choices with more than one subject.
Yeah, and they'll be real clear when they're testing on this rule. You'll see two sentences that are underlined, and they'll say which of the following answer choices best combines the two underlined sentences, right? Almost always, the correct answer choice is going to have one clear subject and one clear verb. Okay. You start seeing more than one subject and more than one verb. You can eliminate them. So by definition, if you see a semicolon in one of the answer choices when we're combining sentences, get rid of it. You don't even have to worry about it, because if you got a semicolon, you've got to have two separate standalone thoughts. So you have to have two separate subjects and two separate verbs. So avoid anything with a semicolon, anything with more than one subject, more than one verb, and you will be good on those. And then just follow the rest of keep it simple. Okay, and we'll get some practice with those. Questions so far? Nope. Okay,
Nope.
Good. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Elizabeth, I'm just going to skip you for right now, Elizabeth. I will call on you when we work on some of the questions, though. But let's go to Nicole. Go ahead and read that first bullet point for good introductions, transitions, and conclusions.
Good introductions prepare the reader to easily understand the ideas being presented in a passage. You may have to read ahead in the paragraph/passage before you decide how to best introduce it.
Okay, good. So just be aware, sometimes you're going to have to read ahead, and that's cool. No problem with that. But, if they're asking you which of the following answer choices best introduce the ideas described in the paragraph, you're going to have to read the paragraph to find out what the ideas, which ideas are being introduced, and then decide how best to introduce them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sometimes you just got to read ahead, and that's totally cool. Good. Ava, read the next bullet point, please.
Along with good introductions, good transition sentences are fundamental to good writing. Good transition sentences reference a previous idea and connect it to a new idea. The underlined portion above is an example of a good transition sentence. You will usually see this at the beginning of a new paragraph.
Yeah, almost always. So if you see a sentence at the beginning of a paragraph, first sentence in a new paragraph that's underlined, there's a good chance that they are testing you on good transition sentences. So we're transitioning from one paragraph to another. A good form would be to reference the previous idea and then lead into the new idea, right? Which is sort of why the underlined portion here is a good transition sentence, right? Because it references the previous idea. I mean, imagine this was a previous paragraph, right? That first bullet point. I'm referencing the previous idea in the previous paragraph, along with good introductions, and then I lean to the new idea. Good transition sentences are fundamental to good writing, and then I have the discussion about good transition sentences. Does that make sense? Referencing the previous idea and leading to the new idea?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just good form. Okay. You don't always have to do it, but if they're testing you on this, be on the lookout for that. All right, and then the last bullet point, please. Blaze. Did I skip Caroline? I skipped Caroline, didn't I? It's Caroline, right? Caroline.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Caroline. Go ahead and read
Sorry.
your conclusions.
Okay, good conclusions summarize the main point of a passage or article. Reread the title and the first paragraph of a passage to find the main idea.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just point blank, say, okay, what's the main idea of the passage, or what's the, generally. One of the answer choices is sometimes going to be like the most recently discussed idea, right? Watch out for that, right? Because it's fresh in your mind, so it kind of stands out. Feel free to step back, read the title. Quite often you can figure out what the main point is by just reading the title. Read that first paragraph or the second paragraph. The main idea is going to be in there. Something like a thesis statement, probably at the end of the first paragraph or at the end of the second paragraph. But feel free to go back. It's totally cool to go ahead, to read ahead to answer a question, and it's likely you're going to have to go back and reread some earlier parts of the passage. Okay? Questions about good introductions, transitions, or conclusions?
No.
Okay, good. All right, Blaze, go ahead and read. Rule number 6, the first bullet point, back up claims with relevant evidence.
All right. Carefully study all graphs starting with the title, Y and X axis, and the key.
Okay, we're going to get a lot of practice with this. They love asking questions that sort of involve graph analysis as if it were like, I don't know, the science section of the SAT or something like that. But I recommend using this formula. Always start with the title, then study the axes, the Y and X axis, the chart or graph, and then look at the key, if there is a key. And then lastly, look at the data points. Lastly. Most students, when they're doing graph analysis, they always start looking at the data points. They'll look at like the bars or just the lines or whatever. And they stare at it for like 5 or 10 seconds until they realize they have no idea what they're looking at. Then they go back and do this, right? It's because this is what you have to do to understand a chart or a graph. You always have to go back to the title and the axes. So just start there with the title, the Y and X axis, then the key, then lastly look at the data. It'll save you a little bit of time. It'll make your graph analysis just much more accurate. Okay? Let's read that second bullet point. Nicole, please. Supporting claims.
Supporting claims with specific evidence is a good idea, as long as it's relevant.
Yeah, so if you had two possible answer choices, one was many people prefer eating hamburgers to hot dogs, right? If another option, a better option would be, according to a recent survey, 25% of respondents prefer eating hot dogs to hamburgers. Something like that, right? As long as it's accurate and as long as it's relevant to the main idea. If you got some specific evidence supporting your idea, go with it. Okay? Questions about that?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. All right. I think I might have mixed up my percentages there in that example, but I think you get the idea. All right. That last bullet point, please. I forgot who we're on now. Ava? Why not? Go ahead and read that last bullet point.
Providing examples or definitions of technical and unfamiliar terms is always a good idea too.
Yeah, and we're going to be reading a lot of like technical journal articles or like from scientific journals and things like that. If you see an unfamiliar term or a technical term that most people don't understand, it's probably a good idea to define it and provide some examples. Okay? All right, rule number 7 is my favorite rule. I wish they tested on it more because it's so much fun. Go ahead and read that first bullet point for me, please, Caroline.
Okay, the modifying descriptive phrase must always come immediately before or immediately after the word is modified.
Okay, so we're talking about a modifying phrase or a modifying clause. That is, it's also known as a descriptive phrase or a descriptive clause. Okay, when you're using a descriptive phrase, that descriptive phrase always has to come immediately before or immediately after the thing it's describing. Go ahead and check out that incorrect example. Read that. Go ahead, Caroline, read that incorrect example of a modifying clause.
Incorrect. Blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time, humans have long been fascinated by comet.
Okay. You guys see what's wrong with that sentence there in that modifying phrase?
Yes.
What, according to that sentence, is blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time?
Humans?
According to the sentence, it's humans. Okay? According to the sentence. Now, what's funny is that our brains are great. Okay, because even though technically that's what the sentence is suggesting, most people could read a sentence like that and be like, I don't see anything wrong. That sounds good to me, right? Because we're like, clearly they're talking about the comets blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time, right? We don't even let our brains entertain the thought that humans are blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time because that's such a crazy idea, right? A lot of people don't catch these, but do you see, grammatically speaking, right? Because the modifying phrase coming before humans, the sentence is suggesting humans are blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time, which is bad grammar. Okay, go ahead and read that correct version, Caroline, please.
Okay, blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time, comets have long fascinated humans.
Great. Okay, now we've got the modifying phrase coming right before comets. Another way to fix that sentence would be to say, start with the word humans, right? Humans have long been fascinated by comets, comma, blazing through the night sky for brief periods of time. That would be fine too. Okay, but as long as the modifying phrase is coming immediately before or immediately after the thing it's modifying, we're good. Questions about misplaced modifiers? Okay.
Nope.
They don't test you a lot. I see maybe like every other practice test, but if you read something, you're like, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right there. Like just there's some absurd idea being presented. There's a good chance they're testing on misplaced modifiers. All right. Rule number 8, make it match. This is the most commonly tested rule. Also has the most elements. Maybe it's one of the reasons why it's the most commonly tested rule. But all these elements share this one thing in common, which is you've got to make one part of the sentence match another part of the sentence, or one part of the passage match another part of the passage. Okay? So, Blaze, go ahead and read that first rule. Make it match number. We're talking about matching subject and verb in number, that is the singular or plural form. Go ahead and read that example.
Okay. Number. A pack of wild wolves is roaming through the neighborhood.
Okay, good. What is the subject, Blaze, of that sentence?
I guess it would be wolves.
Everybody thinks that, because that stands out in your mind, but that's not the subject. Does anybody else know what the subject is?
It's a pack.
It's pack is the subject. The pack is the subject, okay? And then of wild wolves here is a prepositional phrase. We got a preposition of, right? I think it's probably the most common preposition. It is number 1. Anything in a prepositional phrase is not going to be a subject. It's just not, right? Because of wild wolves, a prepositional phrase describing the pack. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see that now.
Okay, it's the pack that's roaming through the neighborhood. Tricky, right? Very tricky. Okay, now, Blaze, is pack singular or plural?
If it's referring to wolves, then it would be plural.
Incorrect. Pack is still singular, right? If you went to the store to buy a pack of cigarettes, I'm not saying you would ever do this, but if you did, right, when you were 18, buy a pack of cigarettes. Maybe I could a pack of gum. Let's do that. No. Let's do pack of cigarettes because that is just a better example. Is how many packs are you buying? If you buy a pack of cigarettes,
Only one.
One pack. One pack. Pack is singular, right? Packs would be plural. You could potentially buy 2 packs of cigarettes. Maybe you got a good 2-for-1 deal on those. I really need to come up with a better example than that. It works. Yes. So, yes. So packs would be plural, but pack without the S would be singular. Does that make sense, Blaze?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, potentially, by the way, you could have multiple packs of wild wolves, right? That would be nightmarish, right? Like 7 packs of wolves roaming through your neighborhood. Packs would be plural, but one pack is singular. Okay. So we need a singular form of the verb to be. Okay. So very likely you'd see like an answer choice, like one would be like are, or were, or is. And you've got to decide, well, which form is the singular form? Here's how you test them. Okay. Use a singular third person singular pronoun, like it. Right? So would you say it is or it are?
It is.
It is, right? And if you needed a plural form of the verb, you could test it with a plural pronoun like they. So would you say they is or they are?
They are.
They are, right. So that's just an easy way to test to see which form of the verb is singular or which form of the verb is plural. Use it or they to test them. It for singular, they for plural. Questions about make it match a number?
Nope.
No? Almost always when the test you on make it match a number, you will see a prepositional phrase in between the subject and the verb, and they do that to trick you. I've seen 2 prepositional phrases between the subject and the verb. I've even seen 3 and up to 4 prepositional phrases between the subject and the verb. Sometimes. Super, super, super tricky. Be on the lookout for that. But if you see a preposition and the words that follow the preposition, you can ignore it. It's not going to be part of the subject. Okay? All right. Okay. Excuse me. Nicole, go ahead and read that second bullet point. Make it match for tense.
Tense. The band played its hit tune, and the audience erupted in applause.
Okay, we've got 2 verbs in the past tense here. Now here, I'm going to make this real clear. I'm not saying that every subject, that all the verbs in a sentence have to have the same tense. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if we're talking about events that happened in the past, we need to stay in the past tense. If we're talking about events that are happening right now in the present, we need to continue with the present tense. If I'm talking about events that will happen in the future, we are going to have to use the future tense. Okay, so that's it. Just consider when the events are happening, make sure that all that matches up. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, great. All right.
Nope.
Super. Ava, go ahead and read. Make it match style and tone. I like this example here. And by the way, style and tone, we're talking about how a sentence or how the passage sounds, right? The way it sounds. Go ahead and read that incorrect example.
Incorrect. The polar bear is a carnivorous bear whose native range lies largely within the Arctic Circle. They are super cute, but they sure can be mean.
Okay, and what's wrong with that? You're already giggling, rightly so. What's wrong with that?
It was super factual, and then it was just like, they're cute.
Yeah, exactly, right. So like almost all the passages we're going to be, I would say all the passages we're going to be reading have a very professional, formal tone. They sound professional, they sound formal. When you start seeing stuff that's, I would describe as conversational, or like in this case, the way that like a 7th grade girl might write, then you want to avoid that. And I guarantee if you see one thing that's kind of conversational, so there's going to be a couple other examples. If you look closer, like, okay, that is kind of conversational. They're testing on make it match style and tone. Avoid conversational stuff. Stick with a nice formal tone. Any questions about that? Nope. Okay, great. All right. Make it match parallel structure. Go ahead and read that example for me, please. Caroline.
Okay, along with running and rock climbing, surfing is one of my favorite activities.
Yeah, do you guys know what parallel lines are? Parallel lines?
Yes.
Yeah. Those are two lines that, or multiple lines, that are so closely aligned, right? They got the same slope, in mathematical terms, right? They got the same slope. They go on forever, for infinity, and they'll never touch. Parallel lines, right? So we're talking about parallel structure in a sentence. We're talking about there's some pattern that's established, right? And we need to just stick with that pattern, whatever that pattern is, okay? And we see the pattern here in this sentence, right? The ing ending, right?
Yes.
Once you notice a pattern, just stick with the pattern. You wouldn't say, for example, along with the running and rock climbing, to surf is one of my favorite activities. You're rolling with the ing ending, just stick with the pattern, okay? Now, if it were a different pattern, you could go with, a different ending, right? You could say, to run, to rock climb, and to surf are my favorite activities, right? They're using that infinitive form, to run, to rock climb, to surf. Just a different pattern. Then you can use, just go with a different answer choice. But whatever the pattern is, just stick with the pattern. Don't change it. Questions about parallel structure?
Nope.
No? Okay, we're almost done. This is really, not a whole lot. That's all pretty straightforward. Blaze, go ahead and read. Actually, I'll go through this next bullet point here. There's a couple words and phrases that you'll always see matched together. Not only will always be followed by some form of but also. All right. Not only do I like eating cookie dough ice cream, but I also like mint chocolate chip. Okay. Another food example here. Clearly, it's around dinner time. There's a couple different ways you could do but also. Right, and I think that example I had an I between but and also. Not only do I like eating cookie dough ice cream, but I also like eating mint chocolate chip. It could be another form. Sometimes the but and also could be right next to each other. It could be like, I like eating not only cookie dough ice cream, but also mint chocolate chip. There's no subject in between but and also there. Just be aware, if you've got not only, you're going to have some form of but also following that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Just be on the lookout for whenever you see not only, you'll always see but also. Some form. Neither is always followed by nor, either is always followed by or. Okay? Blaze, okay, now Blaze, go ahead and read this last bullet point here.
Alrighty. Compare only directly related ideas. Incorrect. Compared to working at a desk, marine biologists get a lot more fresh air and exercise.
These are really tricky to identify, okay? What two things are being compared in that incorrect example?
Oh, working at a desk.
Yeah.
And wait, nothing.
Yeah. No, working at a desk and something else. What's being compared to working at a desk in this sentence, guys?
Being a marine biologist?
Yeah, marine biologists. Not being a marine biologist, right? Working at a desk and marine biologists. Right? Working at a desk is an activity. Marine biologist, that's a career or a profession. Right? There's a difference there. Do you see why that's not a good comparison? An activity and a profession, or an activity and a career? I mean, you do things in a career or in a profession, yes, but here you're comparing an activity, working at a desk. It's not a profession, to a profession. It's not a good comparison. Read the correct example, Blaze.
Alrighty. Correct. Compared to office secretaries, marine biologists get a lot more fresh air and exercise.
There we go. Much better. Do you see why that's a better comparison? We're comparing two professions now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Another way to fix that too, you could say, compared to working at a desk, working outdoors provides the opportunity to get a lot more fresh air and exercise. Then you're comparing two activities. That'd be fine too. But you compare an activity to an activity or a profession to a profession, but don't compare an activity to a profession. That's no good. Also, singular things compared to plural things, that also pops up, and that's no good either. Those are tricky to catch. Be on the lookout for them. Okay. Logical order. Nicole, go ahead and read the rule. First bullet point for logical order.
Avoid interrupting the flow of thought. Incorrect. The bear population in Alaska has grown by 15% in the past decade. There is an abundance of other fish and wildlife in Alaska. The exact reason for the increase in bear populations is currently unknown.
Ugh, that's awful. Right? We're talking about bears in the first sentence here. Right? The bear population in Alaska has grown 15% in the last decade. Then we kind of switch gears and we talk about other fish and wildlife, and then we go back to the discussion about bears. We interrupted the flow of thought. It's no good. Right? This sentence here just needs to be just somewhere else. Not there. Not interrupting the discussion about bear populations. Okay? They'll give you questions. They'll literally like give you a sentence and say, okay, where does this sentence belong? And you just got to plug it in. In fact, you go and read that last bullet point in logical order, please. Nicole.
Use the sentence sandwich method for the logical order questions.
Yeah, sentence sandwich method involves, so you've got a sentence in question, like right here, and we're going to get some practice with it. There's an abundance of other fish and wildlife in Alaska. What you do is you read the sentence before, the sentence in question, and then the sentence after. So kind of like three sentences where the first sentence is the bread on the top, and then the sentence in question is the meat in the middle, and then the sentence in the bottom is the bread at the bottom of the sandwich. Right? That's why I call it the sentence sandwich method. It's going to be three sentences you're going to read. And always read the set of three sentences to decide if you are following, if you've got logical order of thought, or if you're interrupting the flow of thought. And we'll practice that a whole lot. Questions about that? Nope. Okay, great. And then the last one, Ava, rule number 10, one of my favorites, an important one. Go ahead and read that, please. Trust your ear and trust your instincts. Man, this is important. In life in general and on the SAT.
You may not always know the exact rule that applies. Furthermore, there are a number of conventions of good writing that don't fit into perfect categories. So when in doubt, trust your ear and go with your first instinct. You may be wrong some of the time, but it is always your best bet.
Okay. So important here. I mean, if you know the exact rule that applies, apply it, and you're going to get the right answer. It's going to be great. If you're like, ooh, I don't know what rule it is, just kind of read the answer choices, plug them in, see what sounds good. Don't overthink it. Sometimes your gut knows things that your brain doesn't know. Sometimes you're like, boy, that answer choice sounds wrong. I can't tell you why, but I think it's wrong. Don't go with it. Eliminate it. Right? Go with the one that you think sounds best. Go with your trust your ear and trust your instincts. Don't change your answer choices unless new understanding comes to light. Okay? A lot of students, if they're uncertain about an answer choice, I see this all the time, and I've got to beat it out of my students, metaphorically speaking. I see students do it all the time, is if they feel uncertain about it, they'll change it just because they're like, I feel like I need to do something with this nervous energy. I'll change it, right? But what you've done is you've gone from your best guess to a second or third guess, just out of nervous energy, right? Just to make yourself feel a little better. Well, your odds of getting that question right are slim. Always go with your first instinct. Unless new understanding comes to light. Again, if you're like, that's rule number 3. I see how to apply. Okay, great. Change your answer all day long, right? But if you're just kind of torn between two answer choices, go with your gut. Go with your first instinct. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I've seen students just apply that understanding, practice that, and see big score increases just from doing that. Okay, we are done. Essentially, they've got some other stuff on the comma rule can get more complicated. That's just largely unnecessary. This is all there is. And let's practice these. Okay. So I've got an PSAT practice test. I want to work on some of these questions real quick, and we will take a break here in just a little bit. But I want to get a little practice in first. Can you guys see the practice test in front of you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Let's read these together. We're gonna, as soon as we come across one of the sentences with a question, we'll answer the question, and I will guide you through this. Let's apply the rules for writing. Okay. I don't know where we left off exactly, but that's okay. I think actually we're at. I don't know where we're at, but I'm just gonna start from the top again. Nicole, why don't you start us off with reading the title and reading this passage?
A nod to nodding off. With 30% of United States workers not getting enough sleep at night, according to the Wall Street Journal, U.S. companies lose a yearly sum of $63.2 billion annually due to the drop in employee productivity resulting from sleep deprivation.
Okay, I'm going to stop you real quick. Let's answer this guy. Nicole, do you know what rule they're testing us on here?
The word order?
No. What? I'm not sure which rule you're referring to.
I don't know, just like getting rid of unnecessary.
Now we're talking, right? And I think that's rule number 4, right? Which is keeping it simple, right? Avoiding unnecessarily repetitive statements. This guy, is that what you're referring to right here?
Yeah, that's
absolutely. That is the issue here. What in the underlined portion? What is unnecessarily repetitive? What are you talking about?
The yearly sum and then annually.
Yeah. Do you guys see this? Right. So U.S. companies lose a yearly sum of $63.2 billion annually. You guys know what annually means, right?
Yearly.
It means yearly, every year, right? Año in Spanish means year, or anno in Latin. So totally unnecessarily repetitive. Answer choice A for sure is going to be wrong. Okay, what is the correct answer choice? Do you think you see which one?
C.
Yeah, it's C. Right? It's not. We know it's not A. What's the issue with B?
That one also has annual and each year.
An annual loss each year, right? Also unnecessarily repetitive. C, yearly loss annually. Same issue here. It's got to be answer choice C. And that's it. Any questions about that?
Nope.
No? Did anybody else catch that when they read that the first time? You saw the unnecessarily repetitive statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Great.
Yes.
Be on the lookout whenever you see that. That's the rule they test you on. Real simple. Then just find the thing that's not unnecessarily repetitive. All right. Notice, by the way, when they test you on keep it simple, generally, I would say 85% of the time, the shortest answer choice is the correct answer choice, as is the case with answer choice C. It's the shortest. Great job there. Let's keep reading. Ava, read the next sentence. Let's take it from sleep-deprived workers.
Sleep-deprived workers generally have lower morale and are less able to retain information than their better rested colleagues.
Great. Let's keep reading. Go ahead and keep reading. Yeah.
One of the big reasons behind workers' lack of sleep is the work itself.
Okay. What do you think about the underlined portion there, Ava?
It doesn't seem as factual as before.
What do you mean by factual?
Like maybe primary causes of would be better.
Yeah. Do you know what rule they're testing us on here?
The one that had the sorry, the 7th grade.
I think I know the one you're referring to. You're talking about make it match style and tone?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it, right? It just sounds conversational, right? I mean, look at answer choice C. Huge things about. I mean, come on, right? Now, don't get me wrong. We speak this way, but you don't write this way, right? So they're definitely testing us on make it match style and tone. We want the most formal, professional answer choice here. That's definitely answer choice. Answer choice C. What's wrong with answer choice B? You know what's wrong with answer choice B? Anybody?
There should be an A at the end of it.
Not necessarily here. I think it's just the word things there. One of the main things, it's just not as specific as causes. It's just not as precise. It's not terrible, but D is definitely better. There's nothing wrong with D. So it is answer choice D. Questions about that one? No?
Nope.
No.
All right, great. Was that Ava? That was Ava, right? Caroline, go ahead and take it from to combat the problem.
Okay. To combat the problem of sleep deprivation in a demanding work environment, some companies have begun allowing workers to take naps. The hours the average Americans spend working have increased dramatically during the 1970s, making it hard for many workers to get a good night's sleep.
What rule are they testing us on here, Caroline?
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I just know that it doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Here's a little shortcut for finding out the rule you're being tested on. Look at the answer choices and ask yourself how the answer choices are different. How are they different?
I'm not really sure. Is it like the tense?
Yeah, we've got some different tenses going on. You're absolutely right. We've got some different tenses, but we also have some are singular and some are plural, right? Spend and spends are, I think spends is singular and spend is plural. So I always start, even if you see some different tenses, like have spent and are spent, always start with make it match number, because 9 times out of 10, that'll get you the right answer choice without having to worry about the tense. You can just focus on make it match number, which is what they're testing us on here. Okay? So let's ask the question. What is the subject here of the sentence?
It's
The average American?
The average American. Not the hours. The average American, right? Because you ask yourself the question, okay, who or what is doing the spending, right? It's the average American is doing the spending here, right? Now, Ava is, or Caroline, I'm sorry. Caroline, is the average American, is that singular or is that plural?
It's plural, right?
The average American.
Because it's like...
You're probably thinking of like all of the Americans, but Americans would be plural, right?
Okay.
There
so
is
singular?
It's singular, right? There's like one average American, right? The average American, right?
That makes sense.
Does that make sense, right? It's not plural?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, okay. So we need a singular form of the verb to spend, okay? So let's use that trick I taught you earlier with the singular pronoun, right? It. So let's test all the answer choices with the word it, and let's see how it sounds. Can you say it spend? Caroline, it spend. Can I say that?
Wait, what? I'm sorry.
Can you say it spend? Is that acceptable?
No, it's not.
No, that's terrible. It spend. No, that's gone. It have spent?
No, that doesn't sound right.
Gone. What about it spends?
That sounds right.
It's acceptable, at least, right? What about it are spent?
That's not right.
Oh boy, that's no good. Okay. So it looks like it's answer choice C. Let's plug it in. I want to hear it. Can you read it with answer choice C plugged in?
Okay, the hours the average American spends working have increased dramatically during the 1970s.
Great. It works. It works. And that's it. Make it match number. Any questions about that?
Nope.
No. Not super easy. A little bit tricky there. But follow that formula, right? Find the subject. Find out if the subject is singular or plural. And then test the answer choices depending on whether you need a singular or plural verb. And then you'll get the right answer. Okay? Another way to do these questions when they test you on make it match number, with we're talking about verb choice. If you see 3 answer choices that are plural and one that's singular, I can pretty much guarantee the correct answer is gonna be the one that's singular, right? The odd man out, right? Or if you see 3 answer choices that are singular and one that's plural, the one that's plural is probably the right answer choice. Does that make sense? Like, technically, you don't even have to read the sentence. If you know you're being tested to make it match a number, you don't have to read the sentence. Just find the odd man out. You'll probably get it right. Does that make sense, guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Just a little trick there. I say still, you're gonna have the time. You're gonna have the time to work it all out. But that's just another way of looking at it. If you're confused by the sentence. Okay, great job, Caroline. Blaze, go ahead and read begin with sentence 4. Although employees.
Alrighty. Although employees who sleep on the job are often considered lazy and unproductive, napping in the workplace has been shown to improve workers' efficiency and quality of life. As long as companies continue to demand long hours from workers and managers, should champion napping as a means to keep employees happy, healthy, and functional.
Yeah, right. No good. So, right, can we already eliminate A? I mean, like, if you just read it and you're like, that's awful, don't even worry about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. What rule are they testing us on here, Blaze?
Definitely punctuation.
Definitely punctuation. I like asking this question on punctuation questions. Are there any answer choices we can easily test or easily eliminate? Besides that,
we could probably eliminate B, correct?
Yeah. Why can we? I agree. Why can we eliminate B?
Follow the rule of let me look back at it. How a semicolon, or was it? It doesn't really follow the thing to be listed, explained, described, and then the colon is placed afterwards. It doesn't really follow that.
No, well, that's the colon. So this is a semicolon right here, right?
Right.
So let's look at the rule for semicolon, or for semicolons. Go ahead and read that rule. And this, when you're doing these on your own, you're gonna do some of this work on your own for homework. I want you to use the rules for writing. Don't be like, think you have to memorize it right now. This is how you're gonna learn them. So you're gonna practice them. Read that rule in semicolons.
Right. Okay, so semicolons connect two related statements that could still stand on their own as complete sentences.
Okay, so that's all we got to test here, right? We got to see if we got two separate standalone statements here. Do we?
Right.
Read the first part.
As long as companies continue to demand long hours from workers. No, they're not.
No, right? It's like, well, what about that, right? It's just not a complete thought.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about it. Answer choice B is gone, right?
Okay.
Process of elimination, guys. You want to do two things to find the right answer. You want to eliminate. You want to confirm the right answer choice, obviously, but you also want to eliminate all the incorrect answer choices. And sometimes you don't even have to know what the right answer is if you can eliminate all the incorrect ones. You get the same. You get the same result. You're going to get the answer right. So A and B are gone easily. Any others we can eliminate? Let's look. If it's not obvious, let's just test them. Let's plug in C and D and see what sounds better.
Okay.
So read the sentence with C.
Okay, with C. As long as companies continue to demand long hours from workers, managers should champion napping as a means to keep. I think it should just be D, because it kind of that pause with the comma.
Yeah, that sounds bad, right? It sounds bad.
Yeah.
Plug in D. I want to hear D.
Alrighty. As long as companies continue to demand long hours from workers, managers should.
Now I'm going to stop you real quick. So you took a pause after managers again.
Right.
And by the way, it's real important here that you read these sentences as written, right? So if you're testing answer choice C, you've got to take that pause after managers. Otherwise, it might sound okay. And when you're reading answer choice D, no pause. So try D again.
Okay. So as long as companies continue to demand long hours from workers, managers should champion napping as a means to keep employees happy, healthy, and functional.
How's that?
That sounded great.
Great. Works great. And
Yep.
it is answer choice D. Questions about that?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay. Good. Is it making sense how, for the most part, unless they're asking a specific question, like for 1 through 4, if there's a question, there's a rule that applies to it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you just follow the rules, you're going to nail all these. Okay. Let's do this. Let's take a break right now. We'll come back. We might do question number 5. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, we'll probably do 5. But let's take a break at the moment. Get yourself some coffee, go to the restroom, not necessarily in that order. And we'll just pick this up. We'll pick this up in about 3 minutes. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I'll see you guys soon.